On the special Women's Day edition episode, we have Jena Zangs joining us, Chief Data and AI Officer at the University of St. Thomas, where she leads the institution's data analytics and AI strategy. With over 15 years of experience in data science and AI, Jenna is the Minnesota Ambassador for Women in AI and a champion for ethical, human-centered technology.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jena Zangs. Jenna, thank you so much for joining us on the CAIO podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, and that was a wonderful introduction. I'm very honored to speak with you today and talk a little bit more about higher ed, and it's an absolute honor, so thank you.
Wonderful. Jenna, our audience is a global audience. A lot of your peers will be listening in. A lot of aspiring peers will be listening in. So let's start with something that they are all curious about, that you went from running alumni relations, reunion events, to leading a university-wide AI strategy, and with a master's in data science thrown in at the same institution. Walk our audience at the inflection points where you stopped seeing data as a tool for reporting and started seeing it as an actual engine of institutional decision making.
Honestly, I did not discover my passion for data until after I graduated from my undergraduate degree at St. Thomas here. So once I understood what coding could do and what it was like, I was unstoppable. I knew in my heart that is exactly what I was meant to be doing. And so that's why I came back to St. Thomas, because I wanted to be able to get my master's in data science. And I continued to push the boundaries of what it meant to just go after your dreams. If I'm being really honest, I bought my first Java book. It's at my home office, and other than a little bit of coding that I'd done, that was the first time I dove in and just took a chance on myself. So for anyone who's really thinking about continuing to go after their dreams, just give it a go, give it that leap and keep going. And so once I was, yes, planning homecoming and reunions, was my first job here at St. Thomas, had nothing to do with data. I was taking my classes, and there was an opening in our advancement systems area. And the director at that time had never met me, had no idea who I was. And so I actually went and had an informational interview and just, again, took a leap of faith and said, here's what I can do for you. And here's why I want this job. And then I got the job from there. And every couple of years, I have brought new features around data science, machine learning. I mean, AI before AI was a really explosive topic now, to the university, which is giving us such a good competitive edge and has allowed me to build my career here at the university. And again, I couldn't do this without amazing leaders who saw value in me and gave me those opportunities. And then for continuing to push the envelope that higher ed is different than industry. I hear that all the time, that individuals are like, well, higher ed's just a different beast. That's a lot what I hear. And I really believe that we can be competitive with corporate America in the same type of infrastructure and the way we're providing AI. So it's a different mindset than others I find at other higher ed institutions.
You just went for it. You did what Nike says, just do it. And you took chances. Is that how you would summarize for our aspiring leaders?
Don't fear failure. Go for it. I mean, don't let somebody else tell you no. Don't tell yourself no. Continue forward and don't fear that failure, because that's what's going to open the door bigger than what your mind is even thinking about, right? There's always opportunity, and the universe delivers in such beautiful ways that when you really put that energy out there, it tends to deliver, and people recognize that. And when you're hungry for a position and to help a company grow, they're going to recognize that too. And they're going to want to empower you even more. So it would be don't fear failure would be the number one topic.
You have described your role as not chasing AI, but as grounding your institution in how to move forward with purpose, care, and confidence. Where, today there is such a pressure, whether it's your board, your CEO, or your chancellor, provost of universities saying, let's deploy now. How have you managed that balance in saying no at times and saying yes at times? Tell our listeners who are your peers how to balance that.
So A lot of that, again, I just talked about a post of this, of keeping that nervous system calm. It's so easy to have all of this noise coming at you with different vendors. I mean, lots of emails coming in from vendors. Again, like you said, your leaders asking you what's going on, and you are looked at as the expert. And so just understanding what the value and the mission is of the organization you're working for is what's going to help ground you. And then you will be the grounding force for your enterprise or your institution going forward. So while everyone's looking at you, it's not going to help to be, in a variety of different buckets, but to really showcase, here's the task that we're trying to do at hand. Again, setting those ROI metrics, which I think we're going to talk a little bit about here today too. But it's allowing the individuals not to feel rushed because the market says AI needs to move faster. And it's not about going slow either. It's really about understanding what value are we bringing to the business and where can we extend ourselves so that we get a competitive edge. So I think that's a lot of the times I talk about too for higher ed is that we are serving our students, yes, but we also have internal operations, we have our community, and we have our alumni, and as well as the marketplace, right? So we are trying to balance the individual student needs so that they can go out and change the world in this amazing AI workforce that's developing. But then as an institution, so we can stop wearing 5 hats. In higher ed, we're all wearing, doing 5 jobs at once. And this idea that if we move collectively as a unit and start adopting this, we're going to figure out how to minimize those number of hats together. So I really speak a lot about unity. That was the core of our data strategy as well, which has now moved into our AI strategy too.
Who do you think is your number one customer internally? If I were to ask you to pick one.
Our students are always top of every initiative and is the student experience and making them successful. That is our number one point in our mission, and making sure that they think critically, act wisely, and work skillfully. So they are our number one customer. Now, for internal operations, I think about our staff and faculty and preparing them to serve these students.
If students are your number one customer, and let's say I'm your CFO or your provost or etc., and I say, show me the ROI on the money that I'm giving you to invest. What are the metrics? Because some of your peers have a big challenge and they want to know from you. How do we show the ROI? Because in educational institutions, it's not the same.
For our students, we are always looking to make them successful in the path they're looking for. So, as a liberal arts university right now, we're able to open their eyes to a variety of paths that they may be interested in. And I think with this age of AI, having different viewpoints, including philosophy and language studies and art studies, just getting a breath of what the world can offer and where AI can fit into those. ROI for us is not only are the students being placed in those positions, it's around internships, it's around building and this entrepreneurial spirit right now. I just love the idea of vibe coding and that these students can just jump in and build the solution they've been looking for. They don't have to wait anymore. So those are the types of metrics that we are starting to track. What type of AI enablement are they getting in their classes? And our provost has launched what's called Reimagining the Major, where we are focusing on evaluating every major, and that's giving us good ROI of how those students are progressing with competencies that they'll bring to the AI workforce. So every dollar that we're investing in AI is to support the students learning to think critically and to, impact the workforce and our future economy.
Is it fair to say that, let's say, your provost or your leadership thinks that your organization or AI is a very strategic part of the mission that they're in? Talk a little bit about leadership, because that matters within successful organizations and it matters within unsuccessful organizations. So tell our listeners a little bit about that.
Yes, our leadership is so focused on serving the whole person. That is our president's focus, and he talks a lot about that, serving people across their discipline and to really enable them to be a successful human in the world. And our provost then and our current CIO, they both saw the opportunity to, have the first ever chief data and AI officer in any higher education institution and push that forward because it is a strategic value for us. It's something that we want to continue to showcase to our we have a lot of Fortune 500 companies here in Minnesota that we are a partner that is going to deliver your next workforce. And so allowing that leadership to showcase that AI isn't about removing critical thinking. It's really about figuring out how creative critical thinking has evolved with AI and to make sure that our students are able to deliver in this new workforce that's coming. They've been on the ball for a while, I would say, years. This isn't just something that's happened this last year. I mean, we've been in a 5-year infrastructure and data transformation anticipating this explosion.
Couldn't the CIO have done this role? Because right now the big issue is, what is the role of the CIO anymore?
Actually, our CIO was our first chief data officer here at the university, and then she was moved to a CIO. So she has this great data background, which I think there is a huge collaboration between chief data officers and chief AI officers and competitive advantage for companies that decide to move forward with that type of position. But our CIO, she is focused a lot on the change management too, right? Because for institutions, we are really a city that's operating. We are offering classes, we are doing financials, we have parking services, we have events across the country. I mean, we are a mini city. So she is focused on infrastructure that's going to allow us to scale. And she's focused on the change management piece and then voicing why it's important for these investments. So I'd see that she could jump in, honestly, and figure out the pieces that we're doing because we're a great team together. But her voice is what is carrying us to go forward and making us have a seat at the table, which allows the leadership to understand a bit more and make those critical decisions. So I do see the very good role with the CIO as a collaborator in this to again manage the rest of the organization that's going on so that I can really focus on delivering AI and keep us moving at a faster pace.
So, for organizations, your message would be that there should be a collaborative relationship between the CIO and the chief AI officer, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. There is more going on than just AI in an organization. Even though I've read a lot of the articles that talk about IT could be overseeing the entire company, but at the same time, there is more to manage. And so if someone's trying to manage AI and everything else, I think the AI will not get as much attention and you will not move as fast as you want.
You talked about, obviously, the voices from different vendors that come in. This is one of the questions your peers ask. You work with AWS at your university, you work with Google, and you work with Microsoft, three big players in this. And then you have all these, there's, OpenAI is releasing ChatGPT version X, Claude Work, Claude Co-work, then you have Grok, then you have Gemini, etc. The question they asked you is, how do you figure out which model to work with, and how do you figure out between all these noises? And then you have three key players that you are kind of tied in. How do you avoid vendor lock-in? Those are some of the questions your peers want to know.
The last year, we've been in a lot of exploratory mode. Again, thinking that we have multiple avenues to serve the students getting jobs and being prepared for that workforce. Also, strengthening the human capacity here and increasing productivity for our internal staff, as well as serving our community, because we have a lot of educators right now who are looking towards our university to help figure out how is K through 12 going to introduce AI as well. So we have a lot of varieties going on. So I will say we have piloted every single tool that you have talked about over the last year. So we've offered it through this great initiative called the Faculty Innovation Lab that's run by our Chief Academic Technology Officer. And he focuses on allowing faculty to find what works for their major, because something in English major may not necessarily work for something in a geology major, right? So we're trying to offer and meet the business needs. That's where I think everything starts. And honestly, for individuals who are trying to figure out which one to use, we just went through this exercise where we started with, what am I trying to actually succeed? Productivity, AI workforce, a competitive advantage and strategy area, and then compliance and governance. So those were the 4 buckets. Then we moved on to say, like, what am I actually trying to do in those buckets? And then the tool is informed by the business needs. Instead of me saying I need this tool because it's all the rage, I'm focusing on what's going to give me the ROI, what's going to meet the needs of my users, and focus that way. So we've been discovering that Copilot meets the productivity, and so does Claude and Claude Code, all of those for our developer avenue. So when we're talking about productivity, we're really honed on those. But when we're talking about the AI ready workforce, there's a lot more variety, because some organizations use Microsoft, some use Google, some use AWS. And so we are offering a variety based on what the major that they're offering are. So we're trying to be as dynamic. Now, the way to offer those and so many is because we have removed ourselves from we are very tool agnostic and have focused on building our data in our own centralized data lakehouse. We are in the top 15% of institutions across the country to actually have this type of architecture. So not only, many are looking at their ERP as their sun. I talk about our data has now become the sun so that I can securely activate these models in different varieties, but I am tracking what's happening. And so it's been a really great evolution for our university and allows us to provide and meet our customers where they need us.
So basically, using the tools that actually serve the business the best, whether it is for internal programming need, it could be Claude, Office and operations, it could be Copilot, etc., is your message to your peers per se.
Yes. And are you seeing that too? I feel like when I have an issue, I go to OpenAI for this, I go to Claude for this, at Gemini for this type of thing. Are you finding that in your work as well?
Yes. As we speak, I have 4 windows open. And let's just put it this way, I pay my dues to all these vendors because maybe it's a personal preference. I kind of have categories. If I want something specific, I have a preference for that model. If there is something, then I have a preference for that model. Jenna, your institution built TommyBot, which is your internal chatbot using RAG, and it has outperformed a lot of commercial chatbots out there. For our listeners, what was the decision making of build versus buy? Because your peers are constantly dealing with that. So tell them how did you come to that decision, and what did you do to obviously do something where you have organizations that have billions of dollars and you're a mid-sized university and build something that's incredible, Jenna.
Thank you. It was an entire team that put that together, and it was a great first AI initiative for the university. And so we have something called the technology intake process. Again, we have over 250 tools because we're a city. So you think of all that data and things moving around, each one of them coming out with their own AI pieces. So when we go through this intake process, assembles components around hard costs, maintenance costs, soft costs. So, what is it taking for someone to actually be a product owner? New features, AI components, risk. We answer a variety of questions, which then actually outputs direct numbers of the cost with soft costs and hard costs in there. So it always looks at buy versus build. And so when we were looking at all the chatbots coming out at that time, we knew we could buy something, but we had such great internal references, our entire website. We had a lot of knowledge base. We already had an entire intranet that we could offer and be able to do that. So build option actually became the cheaper option because we already had the infrastructure set. We didn't have to add anything quite new, and we set it up, and our amazing team members were able to output that and monitor as we're going. So for anyone who's looking at buy versus build, again, don't forget those soft costs, because I think that's what I see a lot with other institutions is they don't think about what happens when it's up and running. How are you managing the model? How are you making sure it's not hallucinating? How are you making sure that the best experience is happening too? So that would be one piece for that. But with TommyBot, we were able to get something off the ground so fast because we already, again, evaluated what infrastructure we had set up years prior to that.
Jenna, let's talk about the topic du jour, which is AI agents or agentic AI. It's the conversation. I talk to chief AI officers every week, and that's one of the key topics that comes up, especially agents that are goal driven, they're going to function autonomously themselves. Is your university looking at it? And if so, what are the governance frameworks to make sure that you don't have rogue agents? That's something that your peers want to know.
Yes. So we have been exploring agentic AI specifically right now in our Salesforce environment with Agentforce because it, again, when we were comparing what we could handle and actually execute on well, that was an area that we've been exploring. So that is actually specific to our alumni team to be able to communicate with upcoming prospects, to talk to donors, connect with a variety of students who are just about to graduate and connecting them with internships. So the agents are built in our Salesforce environment with limited step prompting and requesting is the infrastructure we've built there. So we felt safe to try that out to showcase how it's working, and it's been positive thus far. In terms of internal agents, my dream in the future is that we will be using agent and that every student will have their own internal agent. Like the moment that you accept at the university, it would be great if it was like, welcome, here's your agent. How can we help you? And that's who is able to set up and guide that student through the experience their entire time they're at the university.
And maybe post that even when they become an alumni too.
Yes, exactly. So the way that we can govern that, though, is that we have been using a lot of master data management, for restricting what data can be accessed by what type of tool and system. So that's been very beneficial for us. We also have an ethical review board that reviews what, from the human aspect, is this something that we should be enabling? Is this something that we can that doesn't give that kind of ick factor where you couldn't tell someone to their face what you were doing? Then that's probably something we shouldn't be doing. So that involves legal, students, philosophy. It involves sustainability as well when we're thinking about those pieces. So again, we have a lot of checks already built in our infrastructure that we go through and output a score so that it determines if we move forward with something or not. So I love this combination of human and the artificial intelligence. And so agents will continue to come across campuses, but they're going to hit a wall because they won't have the infrastructure in place. I mean, 30% of institutions still are working out of spreadsheets. So they will be the ones that will fall behind, which a lot of people don't know that. They think that they've got it all figured out. They have these brilliant faculty, but really behind the scenes, it's not as structurally sound as you would think.
Let's shift to topic that you mentioned and I think you love, which is vibe coding. You yourself have participated, and it's the rage across campuses, whether it's Yale or other places, etc. What is your perspective on vibe coding? Do you think it's democratizing AI? Is it democratizing technology? Are there challenges like shadow AI or governance challenges in there?
So the idea that you can take whatever idea you're looking for and build it in a day, I mean, ideally, I think that is a great revolution for our world, because individuals who didn't think that have had these great ideas but didn't have time. I think of mothers who are working with their kids and they could be at home doing this and vibe coding for an hour while they're napping and then have a company on the side. I mean, it really does not limit the capability of a human. That's what I love about vibe coding. When you talk about removing the critical thinking, it's the security piece. I think about the data privacy piece, because if someone's building something and you sign up for it, you don't necessarily know that they're respecting your data in that way. So your data becomes even more valuable. So I think about the individuals and how they are managing that back end. So that's a lot of pressure on these companies, though, for who are vibe coding to make sure that it's secure, that they're thinking of the things that these individuals won't. And I look at it as the vibe coding company you choose becomes your team. Your expertise are in there and you know what you're looking for, but they need to fill the other expertise that you don't know of. So I like that that you basically get this corporation by working with them. And I think that a lot of universities should be taking advantage of this, and corporations. I mean, if you have interns and you aren't asking them how they're using AI or what they've built lately, I think you're missing opportunity. They're the people who are doing crazy, amazing things that we haven't even thought of yet, and they're not necessarily telling anyone about it.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Finally, Jenna, I want to ask you a question, which obviously I think is a discussion that's happening all across our country, which is the AI's impact on jobs. Whether it is, and it's in higher education too, faculty who fear AI is going to displace teachers, staff who worry about administrative automation, and students who are really uncertain about the value of their credentials in an AI enabled economy. How do you, as a leader, lead those three conversations simultaneously? And do you actually believe, what do you believe about where jobs go from here?
Education is about building curiosity, opening your eyes to other opportunities around the world that you didn't even think of. Again, I didn't even know about coding until after school. And if someone would have told me about it during school there too, that would have been a life-changing decision too. This AI is just a new layer that we have to shift how we're thinking about critical thinking and what the new critical thinking becomes. The other piece I like to compare it to is the scientific calculator, right? When that came out, I didn't have to remember all of the specific algorithms anymore. I just literally pressed the button and just like, oh, I know this is the output, right? So those math teachers had to evolve how they were teaching them and understanding that, so you didn't just get used to pressing a button. So that's the same type of thing we're in now. So as a leader, that's why I focus on that we are grounding ourselves and not just chasing the hype, because companies who are chasing the hype are actually rehiring back. I know IBM just increased their hiring actually for entry-level jobs. So I think that there is always more innovation to happen. So the idea that there will not be any entry-level jobs or jobs for those things seems irrelevant. It seems too far-fetched for me. I really do think that there will always be opportunity, because more innovation and more of this building will create more companies for individuals to work at, or they'll build their own company. There is so much demand. So always telling parents that it is still extremely valuable in the sense that it's going to give them the skill sets to think critically, be curious, and continue to push themselves in this entrepreneurial way. And so every higher ed is going through that right now and getting that question. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. Thank you.
Talking about pathways, at the end, we have this lightning round of questions. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Open source or proprietary LLMs for enterprise? Pick one.
Proprietary LLMs.
Okay. Structured data or unstructured data for AI?
Unstructured data.
On-prem or cloud?
Oh, cloud.
Single agent or multi-agent architectures?
Multi-agent architecture.
Okay. Move fast or move carefully with AI?
Move carefully.
I like the decisiveness. AI governance, is it an enabler or is it a bottleneck?
Definitely enabler. We call it data empowerment, not governance.
Let's see how you tackle this one. Biggest AI risk, hallucinations or bias?
Bias.
AI talent, hire or upskill?
Upskill. I'm a firm believer in upskilling. We do that all the time here.
Okay, I'm going to give you an easy one. Vibe coding, is it a revolution or is it a gimmick?
Definitely a revolution.
Okay. Agentic AI in higher education within the next 2 years, is it ready or dangerous?
Ready.
And final one, and this should be relatively easy. The Chief AI Officer role in 5 years, is it going to be essential or will it be obsolete?
Essential.
All right. I love that. I love that. Gina, this is really great conversation that we've had. Very distinctive, because not of the awards or recognition, but you articulate something I think the AI community desperately needs to hear right now, that most AI strategy is not the fastest one. It's probably the trusted one that we have. And you spent so many years at one institution, and you built is not just a data lake or a chatbot, but it's, I think, a community of people who trust the data enough to act on it. And that's the rarest outcome in enterprise. And to our listeners, if you're building AI outside of Silicon Valley, in a university, a hospital, a manufacturer, or financial services firm, I think Jenna's trajectory is proof that the most interesting problems and the most durable impact are not at the frontier labs. They are where the mission is real and the stakes are human. And so, Jenna, where can people find you, follow your work, and connect with you and the women in AI community?
You can find the work and what I'm building on my website at jenazangs.com. And then I also am, as you said, the Global Women in AI Ambassador for Minnesota. So you can find our group and what we're working on there, which is wonderful. And at the University of St. Thomas, I'm always posting on LinkedIn. I love posting about a variety of what we're doing, women-focused empowerments, and then focused on what new trends are happening across education, especially for those K through 12. That is really an up-and-coming, I think, this next year that they are going to need the most help too.
Well, fantastic. Thank you, Jenna.
Thanks for tuning in to the Chief AI Officer podcast with Sanjay Puri. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to leave a comment. We'd love to hear what you thought. And share it with someone curious about the future of AI. Join us every Friday right here on the CAIO podcast as we share more stories and insights from the leaders shaping what's ahead.